Hi everybody, it's David from Doctors of Running, and today we have a head-to-head battle. We're going to be taking a look at the Nike Alphafly Next Percent 2 in comparison with the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro. Now there's a couple of similarities between these shoes. They're both in the super shoe category, both high stack, rockered shoes. Both have a unique geometry. When we take a look at the Alphafly, you just see that disconnected plate with the forefoot and the heel here. You have just a separation there with the AirPod, sharp toe spring, sharp bevel. And there's just a lot going on with that design. When we take a look at the Rebellion Pro, you see something kind of similar. We have a very intense rocker at the heel here, and then you have kind of more of a gradual toe spring, but it's still noticeable. When we take a look at the outsole design, almost looks like a pod as well. So you kind of have like that forefoot kind of hoof almost like design cut out deep through the inside of the midline of the groove here, basically right where your heel sits, coming up through the medial part. Sorry, I have a counterclockwise. There we go, through the medial part there. And so you have a little bit of a cutout, and you can kind of see the plate coming through here. It's a little bit hard to see with the ink plot design that we have on the upper and the midsole. This one's a dual density layer midsole, so we have Energy Light Plus on the top. I believe it is P-Bax based. Energy Light, which is another, we saw in the Rebellion version of the performance trainer in that model. A little bit firmer, but still kind of a bouncy, resilient, performance-like ride. When we take a look at the weight in comparison, I don't have the actual weight for a men's size 9 on Alphafly Next Percent 2, so I weighed both of these guys. But 8.4 ounces in my men's 9.5, so I imagine we're looking at about 8.1, 8.2 ounces men's size 9. Rebellion Pro listed on the specs, we're looking at 7.9 ounces men's size 9. However, when I went and I weighed this, I actually had 7.4 ounces for my left shoe. So it actually read lower than what the intended weight there was supposed to be. I will say right off the bat, as far as comparisons go, this Rebellion Pro was off the sample line. It is going to be the same geometry, same everything as the production version. It's just they're cleaning up the last little bit of sizing. And so like my 9.5 fits more like a size 9. That should be cleaned up by the time these get fully released. With that said, I'll just run right into it. So looking at price point, Rebellion Pro will be coming out for $250. So pretty much right in line with the other super shoes in the market, whether you're looking at the Nike Vaporfly, Nike Alphafly at $275, Asics Metaspeed Sky and Edge Plus. It's trying to compete in that same lane. Does it compete? I think it does. I think it provides a very unique, very fun, fast offering on the feel. I'll start off with that as far as performance and how the shoe feels for the Rebellion Pro. So one of the first things you notice, traction is actually quite good on this shoe. When you're standing in it, it's not the most comfortable shoe to stand in. You feel like you're pretty high up. You feel like you're kind of rocking a little bit, but the second you start moving, you really feel like this shoe wants you to keep moving forward. It's a very momentous type shoe. You get a lot of responsiveness off the toe off. You almost feel like a little pogo through the midfoot. And when you take a look at the plate design there, you see it kind of rises up through the midfoot. You almost feel like you're sitting up and then you're kind of dropping down off of the forefoot. And so the way I'd best describe it is when you're landing, it basically transitions you through that heel really quickly. You can still heel strike. I know Klein has also been enjoying this shoe, and he's a pretty hard heel striker. It just kind of quickly gets you onto that midfoot. That's really what you feel. It doesn't feel like it's that jarring per se. You just kind of feel like you're just very noticeable in the midfoot. Like it wants you to keep you right there in the middle and then just propel off the forefoot. So very noticeable on that end. This shoe feels very quick, very fast in straight lines. So running on a clean, groomed, whether it be a track or a road, bike path, whatever, you're going straight. This shoe just sends you forward. The things that I do struggle a little bit with this shoe, cornering, turns, track, those types of things, I've never done well in the Rebellion Pro. And even though the traction is quite good, I think the way the cutouts are designed, it's very deep, goes all the way down to the plate there. So if I'm pulling this up on the medial side, you can see how deep that cutout actually goes. And if we're following it, if it gives you a nice crash pad feeling in the midfoot here, I think I just would wish they kind of fill in this midfoot region. Because when you're standing and you're coming up on those turns, like this is really all you got as far as the platform goes on that lateral piece and then coming through that midfoot there. And yes, it's quick. It's not like it's that long, but when you're having to navigate turns or think about where your feet are set or having to just make those kinds of adjustments, it does change the experience in a shoe because now you have less confidence going into a turn or performing or U-turns in courses and things like that. And so I've noticed with the turns and with highly cambered roads, I just haven't liked the shoe as much. With that said, locks down well, good performance fit throughout, very fast feel. One of my favorite shoes to just rip like workouts, even races. I did do one race, half marathon in this shoe. Did fine. I didn't do quite as well as I would have liked in the race itself. Wasn't the shoe's fault. That was definitely my fault. But yeah, it's been a fun shoe to run in. Very snappy, quick, super shoe-esque feeling. I would say if someone is a little bit more naturally inclined to run forward, this shoe will probably feel a little bit more stable when you're in those turning situations. But if you're coming off that heel, it might be a little bit dicey sometimes. But overall, very fun experience, very unique offering to the Super Shoe lineup. This isn't just another like Nike Vaporfly copy or whatever. Like it feels very much like its own shoe. So it's a unique one. Does it fit in the price point? I don't know if any of these super shoes, I guess that's just where the market is. And so if that's where the market is, I think it's comparable. So I guess by default there, I guess it validates that. But very fun shoe, light, quick, fast. Design can go all the way upwards of the marathon. I have run over 20 miles in this shoe during a long run, did fine. So yeah, I mean, you can run pretty much anything from like 10K up, really. I mean, you could run a 5K in that shoe. I just think for me, pacing wise, what feels comfortable for me, I'd say 10K and up. Now going on to the Nike Alphafly Next Percent 2. I did forget to leave one comment about the Rebellion Pro 4.5 millimeter drop. So this is similar more to the Alphafly version 1 as far as like specs, dynamics. I don't have the heel height and I don't have the forefoot height. I just know it's a 4.5 millimeter drop. I imagine it's going to be a 40 to 35.5 of whatever that math would be. But it is approved by World Athletics. I don't know for sure what that stack height in the heel and forefoot is. That's just what I can imagine based on everybody going up to that 40 millimeter stack height there. Alphafly 2, same thing. They didn't publish the specs, but I can imagine the last one was 40, 36. This one now has an 8 millimeter drop, so we're looking at 40, 32. That 8.4 ounces in my men's 9.5. A lot of similarities in the fact that you do get a lively toe off in the Alphafly as well. This shoe feels a lot more balanced underfoot. It feels like you can go a little bit slower in it. It doesn't feel like you have to push quite as hard or fast. In fact, it almost wants you to settle into a pace. And so this is a shoe that I've found that works really well for those long efforts. It's definitely a shoe that would be in the quiver for a marathon. I think for the half marathon, even for that race, I still kind of feel like it was a little more than I wanted weight-wise when I got about 10 miles in. But with that said, I mean, it did fine. It did well. You know, if you're going and you're running a pace that you're going to settle into, the Alphafly does very, very well. I do feel like it's a little bit slower than version 1 as far as the transitions through the forefoot. It doesn't feel quite as snappy and fast and like, I don't know, just responsive overall, but it does feel like it is more of a marathon shoe. And it feels like it differentiated itself from that Vaporfly, where like this is going to be your long distance offering. The pod is still noticeable, I will say that, but they did put a little bit of Zoom X underneath it now, and so that's softened up. That transition's a little bit smoother in the forefoot. They widen the base a little bit, so you can definitely feel like you're sitting in the platform a little bit better. The sidewalls are much better integrated. Those that have been following this channel know that I had a little bit of irritation on the inside, the medial part of like my arch and foot after I ran long miles in Alphafly version 1. That's completely gone in version 2. So a lot of good things to say about the Alphafly 2. That did come with the gain in weight, so the shoe does almost feel like a little bit more trainer-esque, but it still can turn over. You can still run fast in it. It's still very responsive. Like that's a Zoom X midsole with a carbon plate and everything. All the same DNA is there. So yeah, I just think it gravitates more towards the long distance offerings. Forgot to say we have a carbon infused nylon plate in the Rebellion Pro as well. It's still very rigid though. Like if I go and I try and bend this thing, like it's still a rigid high platform rocker shoe like any other super shoe. So taking a look at these, a little bit faster in the forefoot on the Rebellion Pro. This feels very lively, very quick transitioning, get you forward, pop off that forefoot. And even when you're in rhythmic paces, it just keeps you feeling like you're in a fast rhythm. So if you like that feeling and you want to just kind of keep feeling like that, like spark aliveness, I guess you could say, in a shoe, Mizuno Rebellion Pro can give that to you. The Alphafly seems to be a little bit more rhythmic. So you can settle in and just kind of fall off of that forefoot and just keep rolling. And then I say rolling, but I mean in a different way, where the other one's a very quick speed performance kind of roll, where this is more of that cush, comfortable roll that just keeps you in your cadence and you stay comfortable, you keep feeling fresh. And this one I think is going to align probably with more people, the Alphafly Next Percent 2. Just a little bit more of a comfortable ride throughout, regardless of the pace or where your heel is or where your forefoot is. With that said, if you're trying to go fast and you really like having that fast, confident kind of feel under your foot, the Rebellion Pro can give that to you. And so depending on the race or the terrain, I do like that feel. And so Rebellion Pro has definitely been a shoe that I've been reaching for in given situations. It just has become a little bit more of a niche shoe for me. So depending on how the course looks and what we're looking at, that may determine what shoe I'm going to be wearing. And I think they're both great lineups to the racing category. I think that there will be someone who loves these shoes and could have them as their top option either way. So it really just comes down to the runner and what the runner wants and what they like in their transitions. But that's what we got. That's the Nike Alphafly Next Percent version 2 compared with the Mizuno Rebellion Pro.